Welcome, everybody. Let's get this show on the road. So, tonight, I am going to just take some questions and answers, and we're going to see how this goes. I have a few questions that have already been given to me. If you have any questions, then feel free to drop them off in the chat, and I'll get what I can do. I'll also pull from some of my backlog of questions that I've had over the 3 months that I've been doing this site, and we'll go from there. So let me know what questions you guys have, and thanks for joining me this evening. I'll give you a moment while I'm pulling something up here. Silly me, I probably should have done before. Okay. First question that I have is from Dabbling Paul Ryan. It says, do you think there's any realistic method of capture and returning the Roadster back home using either today's technology or technology we may see in the near future? Great question. So let's see here. Let's take this apart. If we're going to capture it, we'd have to get to it first. And getting to it should be relatively easy, especially if you do it at one of the points in time where it's relatively close to the Earth. And we've done asteroid rendezvous. This is a much, much easier object to intercept than an asteroid. Let me just move for a sec. Gotta get myself comfortable. So from that point of view, yeah, we should be able to do that, and it shouldn't be that difficult to capture it and put it into some kind of a vehicle if we had a vehicle that had enough capacity and then get it back. It's all entirely plausible. The car itself only weighs a couple of tons. It's not that much. We don't have anything that can take that kind of cargo back now. The space shuttle could do it, but the space shuttle was limited to low Earth orbit. You could get something to the spacecraft and you could attach it and bring it back. You'd have to manhandle the upper stage somehow in order to make it work. I wish I knew why the skybox did this sometimes. Oh well. Sorry, totally random thing. What technology? So I've long been a proponent that at some point in time in one of these close Earth passes, probably the one in 2047, I believe it is, where it'll pass close to Earth within, I don't know, 4 or 5 times the moon's distance, maybe a little bit further than that. But still relatively close, that they're going to send a BFR up to it and they're going to capture it. The BFR will have plenty of space to capture the Tesla Roadster, and then they can stick it in there and bring it back home, and it should work. Any kind of these next generation systems should work perfectly fine to do that. Where is the Roadster right now? Haha, I just so happened to be showing this. Wow, it's gotten far. This program that I'm running right now is my simulator that I built. Shows a simulated view. It happens to show the distance away from Earth and its location. See, it still looks relatively close to Earth, but that's 36 million kilometers away. It's, 20 million miles away from Earth. It has gotten quite far, and so it's quite impressive there. Oh, don't be sorry. It's a fantastic question. It just happened to be funny that I happen to be showing you what the answer is to it. So what are the questions you guys have for me, or should I pull from some of my queued up ones? I'll go ahead and pull up the queue ones. Let's see. Long-term fate of Starman. Yeah, that's already my Why didn't they put solar panels on? Okay, that's another interesting question. You couldn't really put solar panels on. It would have kind of been nice, but you'd have to convert it into a whole satellite. I'm probably going to do a whole little mini class on how you build a satellite, and by the time that's done, I think that question will be very, very apparent. Is the Roadster actually heading towards Mars? It's heading towards Mars, but not directly towards Mars. Let me show something here. So this is the comparing it to the InSight mission, which just barely launched. You can see the date of the InSight mission here. InSight is going to Mars. The Tesla Roadster is not. And it's actually, you can see it's going a little bit beyond the orbit. You see InSight is just barely touching the orbit, and it will land on Mars then. So the Roadster is going into the wrong orbit to land or intercept Mars or anything like that. It is going to make a number of fairly close flybys of Mars and Earth over the next 100 years or so. There'll be, I think, 8 close encounters or something along those lines. Close being closer than 1/10 of an AU away, which there's very few very close encounters in the next 100 years. I should say 72 years, because that's how long NASA has the predicted data that I'm drawing from. So this is what you should see. This is live on the website too. I'm pulling it right from there. So this is what you would see if you went to Mars right now, or if you were trying to go to Mars. You guys can do all the playing you want with that. I'll post the link just so you have it. But that's the difference between the Tesla Roadster and the, trying to get to Mars, and a real mission trying to get to Mars. Let me just send a message here real quick. If I don't get any questions, I might do some, I don't know, playing Kerbal Space Program or something. We'll see. We'll talk about news too. So the big news in space right now is the launch of the Block 5. Let's see if I can pull any pictures that I can use. Block 5 is the latest and probably last version of the Falcon 9, and Heavy for that matter, that will be launched. It is everything that SpaceX has been working towards, is working towards a fully reusable spacecraft or rocket, and the Falcon booster is now more or less ready to go. In theory, they should be able to do a 1-day turnaround for this, which is just crazy. So SpaceX hasn't released any official pictures of it yet. I'll see what I can do towards finding them, but it's a really interesting mission. So they're going to do the first launch of that tomorrow afternoon Eastern time. I think 20 hours or so from now, roughly. So that'll be really exciting. Okay, next question. What do I got? Next question. Very closely related to the last one. Did SpaceX miss its intended target? The answer is they didn't really have an intended target. It was never really intended to go to Mars. if you were going to launch it to go to Mars, this is the time of year you would have to launch it. That's why InSight launched now, because this is the optimal time to do it. It was not the good time to do it 3 months ago. The planets just weren't aligned. You could make it happen if you really, really tried hard, but you would have to really, really try hard, and that's not what they were trying to do. So what this was intended to do was to demonstrate that the Falcon Heavy was working. Its primary goal. They had number of secondary goals, actually. The secondary goal, land all 3 boosters. They landed 2 out of the 3. They missed the one that was the hardest of them all to land, which is okay. Which was the center core. They'd never done a mission that was that difficult as trying to land that center core. Another secondary mission was to demonstrate the capability to ignite after having been in orbit for 5.5 hours. They were able to do that. That's an important capacity for the military. Getting the spacecraft to head towards Mars was an important objective, and they were able to get a pretty good... They were able to demonstrate that they could have gone to Mars if they had launched at the right time. It just wasn't the right time, though, to do it, and they demonstrated they could go a little bit further. The truth is an optimal orbit to get to Mars, they wouldn't have had that 5.5 hour wait, so they could have pushed it a little bit further, maybe even to about the orbit of Ceres, which is this gray line here that you see. It amazes me how elliptical the orbit of Mars is compared to the other planets. That's actually a big part of how they figured out that orbits could be elliptical. Kind of interesting little tidbit there. Okay. Next question. How accurate is the data on the site? It's and this kind of goes along too with the previous question we asked. One of the greatest challenges in capturing the Tesla Roadster is not just having the capacity to get there, but to be able to figure out where it is exactly. Tesla Roadster is not going to pass this close to Earth for a long, long time. And we can't track it right now with anything short of like Hubble, or one of these really, really big, super expensive, very important telescopes. So nobody's going to use that super expensive telescope time to track the Tesla Roadster. You would have had to have been... They lost the ability to track it about a month ago with more standard means. There's with a 1 meter telescope, you can track it, and there's a lot of telescopes that are in that range. There are some telescopes that they survey the entire night sky every few days at that range, and so they were able to continue to track the Tesla Roadster, but nobody's been tracking it for the last month. The last updates were at the end of March, actually. They, in theory, could have seen it till mid-April, but I haven't seen any updates from it, and I have been checking it out, so yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's a tiny, tiny spacecraft in big, big space. This is 36 million kilometers away. I think that's just a distance that we don't even comprehend just how enormously huge that is. So, yeah. What other questions do I have? So, okay, the accuracy, since we're not able to track it, the accuracy of our knowledge of Starman is going to go down with time. We probably know it to within, say, 1,000 kilometers right now or something like that. which that would be close enough to get there and use a telescope and figure out where it is. We probably know it even more accurate than that, truth be told. But come 1,000 years from now, who knows how accurately we'll know things. It's just going to be really, really difficult to tell. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. I hate to be a downer, but yeah, there we go. Next question. Why does the Earth appear the same size in live view despite being much further away? This one's less of an issue now than it had been in the past, but there were some sites that were claiming to be showing the live stream, even though they were just rebroadcasting the live stream. They didn't make it abundantly clear that it was a rebroadcast. SpaceX released the video footage for it for general purpose, so they couldn't really stop them from doing that, although it's quite dishonest, to say the least, to be claiming it's a live stream. I actually made the simulation because of those videos that were really confusing me. You know, where it was, I could take one look at it and I knew that it wasn't live because Starman had to be much further than that and the Earth was so tiny. We can take this sim and let's point it to Earth. There's Earth and the moon. They're so close, so tiny, you can't even see them. They're just a little tiny dot. With a giant telescope, well, a human eye could probably see them and pick them out. I mean, we can definitely pick out Mars, and Mars is further away than Starman is, and it's much dimmer too. But there's just not much there. I'm going to put this back in rotating mode though, because I like rotating mode. Come on, somebody's got to have another question. Another question I get: what am I going to do with this YouTube channel? So I've been trying to decide that. By far the most popular things that I get are with respect to the Tesla Roadster. You know, I post something there and people come from all over the place. I do anything else and nobody pops in. So I've been trying to do some realism overall, like some explanation of how video games are realistic and not in their science. And there's a fair number of people who come for that, but it still hasn't hit the core audience. I did some surveying and people want me to do more educational things. Well, this is kind of the start of that. I have a couple of videos that I'm going to be recording hopefully later tonight. One that's going to explain about the InSight mission and explain some more of the science of what it does. And then I'm going to go detail out more of what I'm probably going to go into some explanation of stuff like, how do you actually build a satellite? What goes into it? How do you launch them? How does all of that stuff work? And we'll see from there. A lot of people want me to cover the really advanced stuff. There's a lot of people who have far more talent than I do who are covering that plenty fine, although I still continue to put some overtures there. But I think I'm going to do more of kind of class type work. So yeah. Did I make the simulator myself? I did. I purchased the model, these two models, for use in it, but so I didn't actually design those, but everything about the simulator, everything else I did do. The music I did not do. It comes from it's all open source music. Which reminds me, I'm not actually hearing that. It's interesting. Huh. I don't know. That's odd. Oh, I have my microphone turned down. Haha, that's why. Yeah, I can't hear it if the volume's turned down all the way on my end. Silly me. So I've done a couple of surveys to try to gauge where the interest was. And overwhelmingly... Here, let me post this. If I can find it. I'll just take a snapshot of it real quick. So here's the two surveys that I did recently. So first of all, first one was, what should I generally focus on? And overwhelmingly, people wanted me to do more educational content, which is cool. I like doing educational content. So yeah, that was exciting to me. The second thing that I said is, okay, you want me to do educational content. Well, what does that mean exactly? And interesting to me was that spaceflight history here, highlight, was one of the more interesting topics that people want D2. But by far, R&D, stuff that's the advanced stuff. I take this to mean the advanced rockets, Mars colonization, EM drive, stuff like that. That's really on the cutting edge. So I'll cover some of the current news, but I'm gonna stick somewhat to what I know. The big thing that I know a lot about that isn't as well known in the general public is, how do you go about building a satellite? How do you go about flying it? I said basics of spaceflight, but it's probably really going to be more of a intermittent category. You know, it's not going to be super detailed, but you can't hardly do that stuff because of ITAR laws. And besides, it's just not that interesting to go into that level of detail. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm thinking of. I'm still gonna do some of this because I enjoy it and it's relatively easy to do. So I'm gonna keep doing that, but this is gonna be less of a focus. Movie TV reviews, I would love to do that. That's a lot of work and it doesn't seem like there's much interest, so I probably won't do that much of it. Yeah. What are the questions you guys got for me? I'm sure you guys got something. Another question I often get asked is, where was I when the Falcon Heavy launched? I was at work. I'm an aerospace engineer. I was hanging out with people from work, and we got a little mini party, and we're watching it launch with like 20 people that were all aerospace engineers. It was pretty cool. And so I was sitting there and kind of going through the events in my mind. Two biggest events that stuck out in my mind to begin with. One was just the fact that that thing is actually going vertical. It's launching. I had a pretty similar reaction, although far scaled down to the one Elon Musk did. That, you know, he saw it launch and he was just like, it's actually flying. He didn't really think it was going to happen. I didn't either. Second one, when the rocket got about 25 seconds after launch, I had done some calculations with people on the internet. We figured 25 seconds after launch, it was probably safe enough where it wasn't going to blow up the launch pad. So it was at that point in time that I kind of breathed a sigh of relief. I knew that at least it wasn't going to blow up the launch pad. The Falcon Heavy, if it blew up on the launch pad, it would be ugly. It'd be spectacular, but it would just cause all kinds of chaos. So Didn't want to see that happen. All right. So there are no other questions. Oh, we got another one. Did I get a chance to see the eclipse last year? Yes, I did. I had that eclipse on my calendar to take a day off since it was 3 jobs ago. It was like 7 years ago that's been on my calendar to take that day off. So I live in Northern Virginia. The spot that I chose to go visit was in Tennessee. It was nominally 7.5 to 8 hours drive. It actually probably took closer to 10 to 11 because of traffic, and for some reason the rural Virginia roads, they decided to do all kinds of road construction that evening. I can't imagine why. It was pretty awful, but I did get a chance to see it. It was pretty cool. It was really cool. It's a very different experience for sure, seeing it in person, and it's cool. You know, it's how little things like the cows just freaked out. They saw the light start to get dark and they started to run to come back in. And then as soon as the sun came back, they were upset and they were mooing all over the place. It was kind of funny. We saw it at this, me and my family, we saw it at a, this all-you-can-eat country-style restaurant that was just off the freeway in the zone of totality. There was probably 1,000 people or more there. It was pretty funny. A volcano in Hawaii. Nice name. You be nice to everybody there. Yeah, it's not so much lava versus houses from what I'm understanding, is lava versus roads. Doesn't seem like a lot of people seem to live in the area where the volcanoes are, but you would probably know far more than I do. I've only been a very casual watcher of that. Just glad that I'm nowhere near it, although it'd be kind of fun to see. So anybody else have any questions for me? I'm glad I got the stream actually figured out and that it's running smoothly this time. It has not been doing that in previous times that I've been doing this, so I'm glad that that worked out. All right. So let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to... Another common question I get, do I work for SpaceX or Tesla, NASA? No, no, and no. I have done some work for NASA before in the past, and I've worked with SpaceX. Never done any work with Tesla. The only relationship I have with Tesla is I'm a Model 3 reservation holder. So, yeah. But I've never been to... I've toured one NASA site, Goddard, before, which is kind of cool. Could I integrate a real-time version of this animation into the website? The short answer is I could. I would have to figure out a way to host it because it... Well, actually, no. I've tried to build this as a WebGL build and it did not work. So... The closest that I could do is basically like what I'm doing right now. Have a computer live stream it, and I could put the live stream show up on the website. But you can play with this if you want. Wow, the sun's so tiny. It doesn't have the flare though. But if you didn't have flare from the sun, that's what it actually would look like, roughly. So bottom line, I would love to do that. It's just too expensive. You know, if I'd have to find a computer that I could run this on all of the time, and I haven't figured out a way to make that work. If you have any suggestions, send me an email or whatever. I've said that if I had enough people on Patreon that join me there and I knew I was going to have a steady income to pay for the extra expense of running this, then I would do it. But I just don't have enough support there yet, unfortunately. Any other questions, guys? These are good. Another question I get asked fairly frequently. What was it like to have Elon Musk tweet my website? What was my reaction? So at the time that he sent out the tweet to point people to my website, I was trying to fix a problem, I think, with Internet Explorer. It wasn't working right, and I just couldn't figure out why. So I was checking my website statistics to try to figure out how many people were having problems with it. I did eventually figure out the problem. It took me a while, but that's beside the point. Well, I'm using Google Analytics, and one of the things they show you is the number of visitors to your website in real time. And I remember this distinct thing here. Let me impress you with my art skills. Haha. So we got Microsoft Paint. So you have the box here. It shows the number of hits that were coming to the website. Basically, and so this was like the bottom line. Something like this. Basically, what it looked like... Actually, let me delete that line. What it looked like was like this, and then the line went vertical. And then it went like this. Something like this was the shape that I saw. I looked at that and I thought, what happened to my website a couple of, 20 minutes ago that it stopped working, and why is it working now? I was really, really confused. Hey, thanks for stopping by. It's always good to have new people stop by. Welcome back anytime. I'm going to try to do these more often, and probably on Wednesdays most of the time. So anyways, the website statistics were looking like this. And I was confused. And then I looked at the raw number. And the raw number was 40,000. Meaning that 40,000 people had visited my website in the matter of a minute. And that my website had not been broken before. It just looked broken because, before I was hanging around maybe 1,000 or 2. And suddenly 40,000 people jumped on my website. So I was like, where are these people coming from? And I spent 5 minutes, and then I finally found Elon Musk had sent a tweet out to my website, and I was just flabbergasted. I kind of sat there, I copied the link, I posted it to every social thing that I know of, and then I kind of sat there in stunned silence for like an hour after. This was probably the coolest thing that's ever happened to me, and so I was just thrilled that Elon Musk was pointing out people to my website. It's pretty cool. I've long been amazed by all of the stuff he does, and there are quirks. I'm not blind to some of his quirks, but he still managed to do some pretty impressive things. So I was excited. Maybe someday I'll get to meet him. That'd be pretty cool. Anyone have any other questions for me? Wow, we're starting to get more people come on. That's awesome. What are my thoughts about BFR being built in a tent? It's crazy to me. I mean, they can't be building something, an actual flight article in a tent. They're just trying to fix the tools or something like that to get them to work, because it's going to take a little bit of time. I'm sure it must be like that, but I cannot believe they're actually doing that. But I know it's true. It's insane. they're pushing things on the cutting edge. So yeah, they can't. So contrary to popular belief, you don't have to do everything spaceflight related inside of a clean room. But I can't imagine that they could get a tent that would be clean enough to build this kind of stuff. It's, even as a student, you don't build the things in a clean room, but you at least build them in a clean room, as in a room that's not dirty, as opposed to a clean room that has a limit on the number of particles. So yeah, I'm just kind of amazed like that. I think they have the factory built. They're just trying to get all of the details worked out. But they're probably not doing anything really seriously inside of the tent, is what I imagine. But I'm pretty impressed, to say the least. The latest news is that BFR will start doing testing about a year from now. They haven't decided where exactly, but I believe Boca Chica, Texas is where they're planning on launching it. And that's probably where they're going to do the first stage testing. Well, second stage testing, technically. Any other questions you guys have for me? I thought that the ground that I thought they had some kind of a building there, but I'll take your word on it. I haven't studied the issue as much. Factories just don't interest me as much as some of the other stuff. The technology in general interests me, but yeah, I'm not a factory type person, I guess. All right. Let's see if I got any more questions. Okay, I think that's about all I'm going to get for tonight, and I've gone through my backlog of questions. So thank you guys much for... Oh, one more question. Last question I'll do. What should the first words from Mars be? We're here! Yeah, I'm not a poet, guys. Sorry. At best, I could copy words that have already been said, but I'm sure that somebody is thinking about that long and hard right now. I hope so. It's probably a good question to ask the first astronauts who what their first words being on the surface should be. I got nothing, no. Sorry. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I'll try to do one of these about once a week or so. Yeah. I'm sure they won't send a comedian there first on the moon, but who knows. Thank you guys for all of the support you guys give. I continue to be amazed at the support that I get and the number of people who have, continued to visit the support, and even more, the people who've just given me flat out money to continue these things. I'm amazed, guys. Thank you so much for everything. You've made a huge difference, and I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that I've done if it wasn't for this simulation. Wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the support of you guys, and this YouTube channel certainly wouldn't exist. So thank you much for everything. Keep sending me your questions, and I'll try to do these as often as I can. But for now, take care, and we will see you next time. Till then, keep on tracking.